Welcome to Workplace Revamp, where we talk about real workplace challenges and how to rethink the way work gets done. I'm your host, Rene Madden. Today, we're exploring presenteeism, the problem of being physically at work but mentally checked out. I've definitely been there. My guest is Norma Shirk from Nashville, and she is the CEO of Corporate Compliance Risk Advisor. And Norma is also an attorney licensed in Tennessee, Texas, and Colorado. And since 2011, she has helped small and mid-sized businesses reduce HR compliance risk. She is also the author of Psycho Bosses and Obnoxious Coworkers, and her new book is Things Go Wrong: Legal Minefields That Business Owners Hate but Have to Deal with. Norma writes and speaks widely on employment issues and also runs a history blog, History by Norma, and she currently serves on the boards of Strive, College Gate Academy, the Tennessee Latin America Chamber of Commerce, and the Tennessee Latin American Foundation. Norma, welcome to Workplace Revamp. It's so great to have you.
Thanks so much for inviting me on. I'm looking forward to this.
Oh, yes. I can't wait to talk with you and learn more about your books. So, Norma, before we get into presenteeism, let me get that right. Can you share a little bit of your background and what led you to start Corporate Compliance Risk Advisor?
Sure. So I was an attorney in-house for about 20 some years, and I worked for the federal government, Tennessee state government, private industry, and I got downsized again in 2011 and decided that I wanted to do something a little bit different. And so I took the parts of my old job that I liked and I put that into a new business, and I switched from legal advice to business advice. And I work with small companies just because I like it. It's sort of like the Wild West of HR.
Okay, that's great. So I love your book title, Psycho Bosses and Obnoxious Coworkers. What drew you to those topics?
When I started my business, I had a shoestring budget and I needed to do some marketing. So I started a blog called HR Compliance Jungle. And each week there was a little scenario of something that went hideously wrong in the workplace, and then usually 3 choices of what they could do to fix it. Some of them were ludicrous, like one suggestion was for the secretary to send her boss into outer space, a la Dilbert. But then there was always at least one reasonable one in there. And so as I was getting better known and started doing more public speaking, my social media team said to me, well, you need to have a book to go with it. And so we took some of my favorite stories from the blog and put them into the book, Obnoxious Psycho Bosses and Obnoxious Coworkers. And I have to say, everything in the book is based on a real-time event, many of them at former employers of mine. And I always worried that somebody would recognize themselves and I'd get sued for defamation.
Yeah.
I did this one about a Miss Piggy sort of person who was not really very nice. And it was always, forget about you, it's about moi. So one day I am at a networking event and my Miss Piggy model came up to me and said, that Miss Piggy one. And I thought, oh my God, I'm dead now. You wouldn't believe the Miss Piggy I work with, and spent the next 20 minutes telling me all about this obnoxious coworker of hers. And I'm like, oh, that's terrible, terrible. After that, I go back to my social media team and I said, okay, now I believe you. People don't recognize themselves.
No, they don't. I do the same thing on LinkedIn. I do a lot of stories from my corporate days, and I always think, oh my God, I'm
Yeah.
Cool, but not yet, not yet. So that's great. I can't wait to read those. I really do because as most of us, we've all had those bosses that
Oh, yeah.
you continue to shake your head. I can't believe it. So, but let's talk about presenteeism. So I said to you earlier, I think a lot of people now call it quiet quitting. But can you give us a little bit of, what you mean by presenteeism?
Sure, whether you call it presenteeism or quiet quitting, it's basically my body's here, my mind ain't. So examples would be you turn out work product that's lousy. So I'm a lawyer, everything is about writing. You turn out something that has lots of typos, different fonts, just looks sloppy. That's an example. You're not paying attention. Other examples, a lack of motivation. I can't tell you how many people I worked with that were kind of like, well, you told me to do A, I did A. The fact that B is a logical extension, they never do B. And they're like, well, you never told me to do B. It's just not being
Yeah.
engaged and caring about the job. And so then you start missing deadlines. A lot of people have attendance issues that go with it. And it just kind of snowballs with procrastination and other things. And pretty soon you're one of those substandard employees that they would love to offload, sadly.
Yeah. And what do you think leads to this? As a manager for many years too, I saw this a lot of times. But what do you think the biggest cause of this is?
I've always thought there were basically about three causes. One is feeling like you're in a dead end job. After the 1980s, right sizing, re engineering, which I personally went through, you end up where there's no promotion track because the corporate structure has been flattened. And so you're sitting there thinking, gee, I only have the next 30 or 40 years of doing this. And
Yeah.
so it takes away your motivation. Another reason I think is that, particularly today, you have a sense of anxieties, tremendous anxiety. People have personal debt, and they're like, how am I ever going to pay off credit cards or the mortgage or save for retirement? Those kinds of issues. That puts a tremendous amount of strain on people. And then right now, in particular, you have a lot of anxiety around politics.
Yeah.
If you turn on the news, it's all bad. And if you turn it on for too long, you're like, oh, wow, I'm starting to feel like Sylvia Plath. I'm going to put my head in an oven or something. And so it's very hard to stay kind of upbeat about things. And that all kind of contributes to a sense of burnout where it's really hard to get motivated to get out of bed in the morning.
Absolutely. I've been there. I've seen it. It's not good. So what do you think the cost is for organizations?
Oh, I think you can draw a pretty direct line from presenteeism, quiet quitting to the bottom line financially of a company. If my employees are spending their time occupying space but not really working, my productivity goes down, my customer service goes down, and pretty soon I'm getting really rotten reviews on everything from Yelp to LinkedIn to Glass Ceiling. And that's going to start paying off in the sense of diminishing returns. So there's a financial cost for companies.
Okay. So you talked a little bit of some of the causes. Are there any differences among generations from baby boomers to Gen X, millennials, and Gen Z that you've seen?
Oh, yeah. Baby boomers like me grew up in an era where their parents had cradle to grave employment, and mom and dad kind of look at you and go, what's wrong with you? Changing jobs yet again. And the other thing for baby boomers is they're now known as the sandwich generation. They have elderly parents they're caring for. They may have kids still at home or in college, so you've got to take care of them. And then you have the job, and you've got the financial strains of how in the heck do I keep my job and get mom and dad to their next gazillion appointments with a doctor and get the kid through college and still save for retirement. And so baby boomers are really stressed. They're generally from a time period when we were taught that it was bad. You know, when I was coming up, it was a bad sign if you had a lot of different jobs and you had to explain any breaks in employment. Then you come up to the millennials, and they came of age basically during the economic downturn of 2007 to 2009. They watched their parents, who had done everything they were expected to do, have 401ks that tanked because the economy tanked. And the kids came out of college, the millennials, and suddenly there weren't any jobs. Nobody was hiring from 2007 to 2009, seemingly. So they've always felt a sense of insecurity. And I think that contributes to them thinking, what's in it for me? And not in a pejorative way, in a bad way for them, that we all have to look out for ourselves. And then when you get to Gen X and Gen Z, their parents went through potentially the 1980s downsizing, right sizing, re-engineering. Again, did nothing wrong, and yet lost their jobs.
Right.
They're seeing the stress their parents are under now, and they're coming into the job market around the time when, again, we have another economic downturn and the outlook for employment looks kind of bleak. And so they're thinking, why am I putting a lot of effort into a job? I want work-life balance. And for the younger ones too, they now talk a lot about safe spaces, which I don't mean to belittle it, but to me, I giggle, because when I started my career, you know, having the boss screaming at you, well, that's just Tuesday, you know, or Wednesday. He'll get his act together, or she'll get her act together, and then we'll go on again. Now you raise your voice slight and they're like, oh, I don't feel safe. And then they want to quit their job. So they're, in a sense, a lot less invested, and they want meaning in the job. Baby boomers were like me, meaning schmeaning. It's a paycheck, isn't it, to get you to where you want to be, which is retirement and paying off the mortgage and getting the kids through college.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I mean, I'm a baby boomer. I'm on the kind of on the end of it. And I didn't like the yelling and screaming, to be honest. So
Oh,
it's
yeah.
funny, like when I saw Gen Z come in, and I was like, wow, I love their thinking. It was really weird because I felt like they are going to help break these outdated norms.
I hope they do. I really
Yeah.
hope they do, because I never liked the yelling either. I mean, it's not a motivator. Fear and loathing never motivates anybody to do a better job. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, the fact that the work-life balance, sometimes it does sound a little silly to me just because of the way I was trained.
Exactly.
But yeah, I hope that it teaches the dinosaurs that workers are human beings first and workers second.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what do you think, like, we talk about breaking this cycle, and, I tried to do it when I was in corporate. I tried to make a difference, but what about HR? Like, what are some of the policies or practices that could actually make a difference?
I think from an HR viewpoint, one of the things is to be a bit more flexible. Not too many companies have the three strikes you're out policy anymore, where you call in late or you miss three times unexcused and you're out the door. You don't have that as much. I also personally like the idea of a remote work policy and allowing employees to do that, particularly for women who are usually the caregivers, the primary caregivers for mom or dad, and the ones looking after the kids. And
Right.
so being able to work from home is a work-life balance adjustment for them. I know a lot of companies worry that people won't work, but you bring them into the office. If they are doing quiet quitting, they're not working there either. So that's
Yeah.
just face time to make you feel good about all the people you supervise. So more flexible HR policies, maybe try to bring back some more internal training. Companies have to believe, even nonprofits, that their mission will grow, that their company will grow. It's easier to promote from within so than to hire somebody off the street and have to get them up to speed on your company culture and all of that. So put a little time into tuition reimbursement or internal training programs so you train that next level to be ready as your company expands. I'm a big believer in that. I
Yeah.
think for the millennials, Gen X, Gen Z, having policies where maybe you pay for 4 hours a week or whatever for them to go do volunteer work at their favorite charity. Now, obviously, you don't want them going to a nonprofits like Nazis R Us or something, but having them go work at the local food bank. Around here in Nashville, we have Second Harvest, and it's very popular with companies to send their folks over there to help make up the food packages that are then distributed to folks a little less fortunate in the community. So
Great.
there's things like that that you can do that can help across the board. Now that's from the company standpoint. From an employee standpoint, I think what you want to do is turn off your devices outside of your regularly scheduled hours. You're going to slow the chance of burnout if you're not constantly checking company email at midnight or something. And then the other thing is to separate yourself from your job. I mean, you have your brand as your person. I am who I am. That's my brand. Separately, I have a related brand, which is my job title and who I work for and what I do.
That's great. No, it's great advice. What about these companies though that now they're calling people back to the office? And I read something earlier today that said it was like I think, you have all these terms, quiet layoffs, because companies are bringing people back and hoping people will quit. What do you think about that?
I kind of understand part of what they're trying to do. But to me, I'm not in favor of that policy. And here's why. It's the dinosaurs who were trained up in FaceTime is work time,
Yeah.
not on the quality of the work or anything like that initiative. And so they just want people in the office so that they have people there. You can do meetings. I know companies where 1 day a week or maybe 2 days a week you're in the office. And that way you can have those in-person meetings that you need. But a lot of the work, particularly in a knowledge culture, for a lot of office work, you can do from anywhere.
Right.
So you know, I think that there is a certain element if we force people to come back to the office full time. First of all, that's a power play. Second of all, I
Yes.
think it is a way to get people to quit. It's a massive downer on morale from what I've heard anecdotally and the
Yeah.
empirical data rolling in from surveys. Employees are like, I'm here until I find something else. I've had jobs that were so dreadful that I spent the first hour at least every morning on the clock out actively looking for something else, anything.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's really a shame because when we talk about, engagement for employees and how we can turn it around, it just seems like we're going backwards.
Yeah, it's another thing that makes me chuckle and a little more sarcastically. So, going back to when I started my career a while back, there was this attitude that you had to be loyal to the company. And then they stopped talking about that. And during the re-engineering of the 1980s, it was all about, the numbers, the bottom line. And, we'll give a nice packet to benefits packet to the top echelon, cut out the middle, and work
Right.
the lower echelon even harder. And so people were like, well, I'm going to get laid off anyways. Why should I be loyal to you? Somewhere around the time of COVID and after it, immediately after it, when there were more jobs and a lot of people were job hopping, particularly to
Yeah.
keep finding jobs that were remotely based, um, HR circles started blathering on again about loyalty to the company. And I thought, that ship sailed.
Right.
Nobody
And
in their right mind, including baby boomers, let alone their children and grandchildren, are going to believe that they should be loyal to a company who's going to look at the bottom line and go, "Oh, we can get rid of that person and just throw their job onto two others." So, it's so self-defeating.
yeah, it really is. I mean, I left corporate in March and I still talk to some former colleagues. It it sounds, and I don't know if it's just the people I'm talking about or talking to, but it seems to have gotten worse.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I hear people that like they take care of a sick one at home. They can't work from home, like even one day. I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
know how those policies are going to keep employees engaged.
And it's not. And right now, the market has shifted so that there are fewer jobs than what people would want. In the aftermath of COVID, there were 3 jobs for every one person looking. Now there's 1 job for about 10 people that are looking. And so I think companies are making the cynical calculation that if you want to keep paying your bills, by God, you're going to have to just keep showing up and lump it a little bit like us baby boomers were taught when
Yeah.
we started. But I don't think that's going to last very long. Baby boomers who can financially afford to do it will keep aging out. And we know that there will be a crunch coming. And so I think that the employers that are, in a sense, more humane and respect their employees more will adapt their policies if they haven't already and recognize that people have lives outside of work and you need to take that into account.
Yeah, no, that's great. So, what can you tell our listeners about, the next 6 months and maybe getting through this wave of where the employers have the power, right? Like, what can they really do to separate themselves from this and maybe hold on?
Mhm.
What can they do to get through this period?
I think one of the things to do, and I've done it in the past myself, is to look around at other jobs I think I would like more. And if that means upskilling, then I will pay to get the upskilling, that additional degree or certification, whatever it is. If your employer has a tuition reimbursement program, even better, because then you can get them to pay to get you upgraded. So that's one thing to do. Another thing, keep your head down and just keep looking and quietly go out there and network and find something that you appreciate better and that you feel will appreciate you and your skill set. And then kind of underlining all of that is this notion that as a worker, again, you need to separate your identity as a person from your job because you have your brand and what you're doing, and then there's the work, and the work can change. And for most of us, it does.
Yes, absolutely. And where can people find out more about your work and your books?
The books are available through Amazon, and I
Okay.
believe they're in both ebook and cover copy books. I still like print to hold in my hand.
Yes, I do too.
Um, and these days, I pretty much limit my social media posts to my LinkedIn. So anybody that wants to connect with me on LinkedIn can do so. Just plug in my name, and that should bring me up.
Oh, that's great. And I'll definitely put the links in with the video with the podcast.
Okay, great.
But oh, Norma, it's been great chatting with you today. I love hearing your insights, and I definitely want to read those books. They very
I
interesting.
guarantee you will recognize most of the psycho boss,
I'm sure
obnoxious
I will.
coworker types.
I'm sure I will. Well, thanks again for such
Thank
a
you.
thoughtful conversation. And for our listeners, if you've ever felt like your body is at work, but your mind is a million miles away, you're not alone. Presenteeism is real, and there are steps that both employers and employees can take to shift the pattern. So we're hoping, like we said, we can break this cycle. Hopefully, it's less than 6 months. But thanks for tuning in to Workplace Revamp. Be sure to subscribe and share this episode with someone who may need it. Thanks again, Norma. Have a good day.
Thank you.